Let me share screen. Okay.
Yeah, now it's on the display mode. Yeah.
Second. Excuse me, I need just a couple seconds for. Friends, excuse me for some pause. We checked it for that 15 minutes ago, but it's always okay. Let me start first presentation connected with forest disturbances caused by military operation in Ukraine. We will talk about assessment, recovery potential, risk, and some prediction for future. This presentation based on investigation, our research group, including Maksym Matsala, Andrii Bilous, Roman Zadražnyuk, and other our colleagues, worked for last years for investigation or impact on forest. Let me say a couple words about me. My whole life connected with forest and forestry. Yeah, excluding 3 years, which I spent in the Ukrainian army. Today, I'm working at Sumy National Agrarian University, and I'm visiting professor in Van Stefan Trisdorf University of Applied Science. I would like to say thank you for all my colleagues and who supported me during my stay in RV. We will discuss shortly about destructive impact of war, forest disturbance and pollution, variability in assessment of disturbed forest area, trends in forest disturbance during these 4 years, forest cover fragmentation, and the future risk and uncertainties. First of all, war impact on people. Millions became refugees, hundreds of thousands were killed, and tens of thousands children were taken. Also, the war is large-scale crime against nature and environment, with consequences that will stay for decades, even centuries. We would also like to honor the memory of our former research team member, Alexei Avramchuk, who was killed in action during defense of Avdiivka city in Donetsk Oblast. When discussing forestry, we should note that from the very first day of war, the infrastructure of many forestry enterprises has been destroyed in north, east, and south of Ukraine. Yeah, you this picture, one forest unit. I worked here 20 years ago in Horodnyansk forestry in Chernihiv Oblast. Russians destroyed this unit 3 weeks ago. Systematically, Russian army strikes civilian infrastructure, including university and research institution. It does not matter where a university and scientific institutes are located, whether in the east near border with Russia or in the west of Ukraine. You can see 2 examples. Ivano-Frankivsk National Technical University of oil and gas was destroyed just 100 kilometers from EU. And picture on right, Karsetsko branch building of Vysotsky Research Institute in forestry, forest melioration. It's eastern Ukraine, 30 kilometers from Russia. Speaking of forest disturbance, the main impacts include shelling and direct destroying, fires after shelling, logging for fortification, construction for fortification, logging for firewood, and of course, illegal logging on the occupied area since 2014. War also has strong impact on border zone with Russian Federation, where 20-25 kilometers area is already formed with no access for forester. 2 weeks ago, Russians shelling caused a forest fire covering an area around 6,000 hectares in the northern part of Chernigiv region. The Koryukivka forestry, and forester couldn't stop this fire because 10 kilometers zone near border, and this area is not available for foresters. Forests in Ukraine continue to be contaminated with explosive remnants, shrapnel, and fiber optic debris. If earlier we had many cases contaminated by shelling, but right now contaminating using optic fiber rapidly increasing, and Russians use shelter belts and forest-like way for the drones. Ukrainian soldiers can protect themselves and cut optic fiber, but when Russian operator drones use drones and forest, it's stays so high for Ukrainian soldiers, and nobody can destroy this optic fiber. And of course, as a result, we will have really strong contamination optic fiber in the 20-25 zone from both sides. It could be 40 or 50 kilometer zone contaminated by optic fiber. Yeah, one of the biggest problem is contaminated area by mines or other ammunition. It's almost 23%. And for now, they mined only 500 square kilometers of forest. And the biggest challenge that forests are third category for demining. It's mean, first of all, for future, we'll be demining roads, transport infrastructure, critical infrastructure, and agriculture lands. And after that, can be demined forests. Shelter belts and urban forests are natural zones of defense territory in Ukraine. If you look closer, you can see a typical way for Russians' attacks and assaults when the Russians army use shelter belts and forests for their some actions. And urban forest and forest around city are kill zone for Russian shaheds. It's easier to shoot, to strike shaheds above green forest zone before city. And right now, many people who would like to have rest in forest can find a lot of different fragments of shaheds and other drones or missiles from Russia. For us as foresters, the most important questions are how much forest has been disturbed by war in Ukraine and how we can restore all damaged forests. Ukrainian officials estimate and reported about 3 million disturbed forest in Ukraine. It's third part of all forest. We think that Ukrainian officials assess all forest in all oblasts where Russian troops were present during since first day of war. Of course, all forests have different impact of war. Some of them are contaminated, some of them destroyed fully, and officials use this area 3 millions. In the same time, we have second source in the data from remote sensing inventories in Ukraine within project technical support of forest policy development and national forest inventory implementation. Was assessed area of disturbed forest around 1,700,000 hectares, almost 2 million hectares. It's just 15% of all Ukrainian forests. Growing stock, which could be disturbed by war, around 377 million cubic meters. This project used methodology based on remote sensing analysis and inventory forest plots and data collection from forest. In the same times, authors use, and first of all, Professor Viktor Milenyuk use the deep state map with data about staying Russian troops and battlefields, and they assess forest cover on area where were Russian troops. And also our team investigate war impact on forest since first day of war, and I would like to say thank you, Dr. Maksym Matsala. First of all, he was main initiator for this investigation, and all member our team. We assessed war impact in 2022 and total damaged forest cover in east of Ukraine. It was around 24,000 hectares. We assessed disturbed forest in Donetsk, in Luhansk, and Kharkiv Oblast. And we used three main area of interest: east, north, and south for first year of war. In 2022, damaged forest cover in Chernobyl exclusion zone was estimated around 7,000 hectares. And we would like to do focus that Chernobyl forest can be example how we can lose pine forest in Ukraine. This area had first catastrophic wildfires in 2015. After that, second huge wildfires was in 2020. And during war, during first year of war, we were disturbed 7,000 hectares again. Yeah, it is a really interesting case. Of course, many scientists reported about increasing biodiversity. In the same times, we really worry about future Chernobyl forest and some scenarios for succession. In 2020, damaged forest cover in south was 7,000 hectares also. And first of all, were disturbed forest on the Suns Arena, and including Oleshki Suns. is a really important protective forest in Ukraine, which were planted for prevent soil erosion, first of all. And of course, we continue to investigate forest disturbances every year, 2022, 2023. And I would like to say thank you for Andrii Andruzenko, our PhD student, who working with analysis data. And you can see example. One second. How changed forest cover during this 4 years of war. Serbiansky forest is a green area, the biggest green area here on this slide. And you can see how this area in pine forest was changed on eastern Ukraine. Serbiansky forest, Izum forest cover, yeah, was severely damaged. Of course, first of all, were damaged coniferous forests. On this slide, you can see impact on forest in southern Ukraine, and green area, green circle around Leshki Sans were green in 2022, but the situation was changed for 2025. Pine forest in south of Ukraine, it seems fully damaged. Summary for assessment area of disturbed forest for Ukraine for area of interest east and area of interest south, you can see on this slide. For now, we assessed 300,000 hectares disturbed forests with some low, moderate, and severe disturbances. In the same times, we would like to focus on changing between 2023 and 2024 for east area of interest. In 2023, this area of interest had 57,000 disturbed forest, but in 2024, this area of interest had 100 and almost 187,000 hectares disturbed forest. And of course, we indicated increasing area of disturbed forest. In the same times, monitoring of forest cover has shown gradual increase in area with low, moderate, and severe disturbances. Also, cases of forest regeneration after severe and moderate disturbances have also been observed, and we have different changing in forest cover. Some forests were disturbed and became moderate or severe disturbances. In the same time, some forests could restore for next year. It's connected, of course, with type of forest, coniferous or deciduous forest. In the same times, area of interest south had seems critical situation because part of moderate disturbed forest, moderate level disturbed forest, right for now is bigger than undisturbed forest. We decided analyze which role play small-scale disturbances and how war impact on forest fragmentation. And we assessed that from 2022 and 2025, a number of small-scale forest cover disturbances decreased from almost 10% to around 4%. Why this small-scale forest cover disturbances are important for us? We should understand how small-scale disturbances can restore for future. And you can see on this slide spectral recovery in small-scale disturbed patches. Some disturbances were indicated in 2022, but for next year we didn't indicate these disturbances. It's mean some forest can have spectral recovery. Of course, this area can have some contamination by ammunition, shrapnel, or something else. But forest cover looks like typical forest cover with without disturbances. We would like to understand, level of disturbances, and of course, from all years we got increasing of area disturbed forest patches. You can see example size of disturbed forest patches were increased, and this tables looks really boring, but you can see dynamic size of patches. Green color mean undisturbed forest, and like orange color means patches disturbed forest. What we would like to say is that during 4 years of war, we got 17 patches more than 1,000 hectares of disturbed forests. Before war, area of interest east had 15 forest patches bigger than 1,000 hectares. But for now, this area has only 33 patches. 70 patches more than 1,000 hectares are disturbed. On this slide, you can see situation for area of interest south. Before war, this area had 5 big forest patches more than 1,000 hectares, but right now the south has 2 big patches bigger than 1,000 hectares. Average it's 1,500 hectares. It's like result that size of this disturbed forest patches is growing every year. We try to find different ways for verification our assessment, and we use 2 approach. First of all, we use open source intelligence data. We try to use different Telegram channels, some media, or some experts. For my experience, for example, or forester who serve in army right now, we try to find some locations, some evidence of forest disturbances, and try to compare our remote sensing data and with data from OSINT data. And second way, we had 2 field trips in east of Ukraine, Kharkiv Oblast. We would like to say thank you for Izum Forestry or Forester, which helped us to organize field trips, and Slobozhansky Forestry, Slobozhansky unit, because right now for today. We finished field trip in Izium forest, and right now it's really difficult to have field trips. It's so close to front line. At the same times, we have unique opportunity to investigate what impact and state of forest on area which were liberated in 2022. This why we decided and why we should investigate state of disturbed forest during war. Mostly East and South Ukraine have protective forest, and 100 years ago, Kharkiv province had more than 120,000 hectares of bare sands. Foresters, 100 years ago, foresters planted pine forest on dunes, and they prevent sunstorms and spreading. Yeah, they should cover this area. And for future, we can lost pine forest on south, and we almost lost this forest right now because the biggest part of forest destroyed, pine forest, and some stands are live, but yeah, for next year they will died because state of this they looks really problematic. We have future challenges: wind and water erosion for this area, sunstorms, and shifting sands over landscape. We would like to say thank you for National Research Foundation, Ministry of Education of Ukraine, State Enterprises Forest of Ukraine, National University of Life and Environmental Sciences of Ukraine, DRD, and other our partners who supported in different way our investigation. Yeah, one more time, field trips close to front line is really difficult, but we need field data for reliable data about state forest in Ukraine. Today we finished field trip in Izium forest, and you can see short video from disturbed forest. You can see more than 1 meters logs on fully destroyed pine stands. We try to find the regeneration, and we will inform you and or forester about our results in future. Yeah, but the situation is critical. And last photo in my presentation looks really simple, but if you look closer, you can see here. Oh, 1 second. Oh, pardon me. It seems something wrong. Excuse me. You can see pine, oak, birch, and aspen young trees on disturbed area. We hope that forester will have opportunity to recover this disturbed forest. In the same times, it's hardly ever we can find natural regeneration on this area. We should be ready for artificial regeneration and try to find how we can protect this forest from huge wildfires for future, large-scale wildfires. Thank you very much. I would like to finish my presentation. I hope you have many questions and we can discuss after Maksym Matsala presentations.
Thanks, Andrii, for the great talk, and it's for being so brave with your team to do this field work in the very dangerous areas in Ukraine. And just the last sentence, hopefully soon the Russia will pay reparations and our foresters will be able to restore forest which they destroyed. Okay, now Maksym Matsala, and after that we will have sessions with questions.
Yes, I will try to be quite fast, given that main results already Professor Andrii delivered to our audience. And my presentation is a logical continuation of what Andrii presented right now. Also, given that, Marina very relevantly noticed that we will need a lot of money to regenerate these forests, and but also the question that we need to do that smart, that Russian repayments as just some sort of resources will not be really enough. And so we need some knowledge how to do that. And one big challenge will be that we will likely not be able to just simply cut down all this forests burned in military fires and winter shelling and all the problems. It's just not enough because many of them, as Andrii mentioned, are landmine contaminated, which means that they will be, you can have a lot of money, but you will not have enough time to demine them, which means that there will be a very relevant option for many forests to, at least temporarily, fence them to limit access of not only humans but also animals, wildlife to that dangerous forest, for them to wait until to be demined, or maybe even never to be demined, as some parts of Balkan countries and even France after the First World War still are not really accessible for visitations. And it poses another problem. So how we can recover forests also, given that this is very arid area and a lot of wildfire risk have always been a feature of these landscapes. And climate will not become wetter in the following decades. So what we can do with this forest and what we can expect in terms of vegetation dynamics. And for instance, this is forest satellite image of forest, and you can see that most of this forest was pines, and these pines are standing dead after fires. They're destroyed now. So this forest in eastern Ukraine, so areas around Izium, so Kharkivska Oblast, and forests in Lugansk and Donetsk regions, they've always been mosaic of some different vegetation and parts. So most common was always artificial dense monocultures, and they're least resilient to current impacts. So drought, war, wildfires, they all ravaging that, and now we could see with figures in Andrii's presentation, most of them are gone. And wildfires also happened in the last 20 years, we could say, in 1997 and later, especially in 2020, when it not only destroyed forests in Lugansk region, but also killed people. Around, I guess 20 people died in that wildfire. So there were some efforts to regenerate it. But many of these patches were failing to regenerate dense pine forest that it was planted to be. And we ended up that many of these patches are now looking a bit like something researchers reported that looked 100 years ago, for instance. It was mixed landscape, so you could not call it forest, but maybe woodland would be more appropriate. So, or maybe something like savanna in Africa looks like. So it's very sparse, woody vegetation with some shrubs and grasses growing. And there was also natural pine grows, and these forests were not planted but originating from previous times, and unfortunately most of them are gone in war. And some broad-leaved patches which always served as some buffers for fire impact and also spread of some diseases which or pests which affect pine monocultures. And we don't really know what to expect, how this regeneration will take the part in this forest, especially when it was forest was burned and then heavily burned, and then it's also landmine contaminated or different unexploded ordnance, and we cannot right now even war ends up or freezes in any terms of cessation of military activities. And for instance, we cannot just come and salvage log all standing dead wood and to plant new forest as we wish. So for instance, how this will develop? Do we expect it will be like going back to some this natural woodland vegetation which existed before this large-scale Soviet programs to plant a lot of pine monocultures? So for instance, this blue line, as we can see that nature balances itself, and we will not have natural dense forest because natural dense pine forests were not typical for all of this area. But anyway, some sort of woody landscape we can get in the future. On the other hand, what we can expect that this bear sense in the past could be result of overgrazing when it was no sustainable landscape management. But now, maybe even we don't have this, we can overgrazing problem in post-war landscape, but maybe vegetation can go on this yellow scenario when, because of climate, because climate is more arid than 100 years ago, for instance, that we can have problem that any tree vegetation would completely fail to regenerate without human support. So we will have maybe sometimes in a bit patches with better soil, we can have a bit better vegetation in terms of more shrubs and more trees, but mostly it can be a combination of biosens with very poor vegetation and a bit more grass when its soil is a bit more fertile, but still no really tree regenerating. And it will be under combination of repeating fires, for example, if we don't make landscape more flammable. So can we predict that? Can we understand also maybe based on the current severity of fire, which happening due to military activities ignited after shelling, or maybe it's a bit different other problems? Can we see that if we use disturbance severity as a proxy? So these two pictures similarly represent pine forest burned down and then new grasses appear, so 1 year after fire or two. But on picture on the left, we can also see some trees and shrubs survive, young trees and shrubs surviving after fire. So we can expect that it was maybe a lower severity fire, and these plants they didn't die in a flame. But so maybe we can expect that we can separate based on disturbance severity more prospective landscapes which will regenerate, recover naturally in the most way that we wanted them to be, at least woodland, and some parts where they will not regenerate ever, maybe. So without human impact, it will be sort of undesirable landscape, given that we have quite dense human population and all of them don't need just bare sands or steppe vegetation, but they also need some tree vegetation for different ecosystem services, for example. So I was entitled to work with quite fresh data, which Andrii and his team collected in Zoom Forestry in September 25, and now continue the work right now. So we aiming to reduce these risks when you go to the forest and you risk yourself with all these unexploded ordnance or the munitions. They used drones to fly below canopy and to photograph vegetation along the transects to see how both herbaceous vegetation recovers and also do we have any signs of tree regeneration 3 years after fires, which were in 2022 during the fights when Russian army was still in Kharkiv, most of Kharkiv region, not most of Kharkiv, but around Izium down. And so I will be quite quick, given that we have not so much time left. So transects were 29 pine stands, mostly quite dry soils. And there were many photographs analyzed, and transects were having a bit different number of photographs. So we used bootstrapping to average results and to make transects comparable between each other. So it was quite a lot of native flora, vascular plants. So we analyzed mostly vascular, not mostly, but just only vascular plants. And anyway, there was a quite high proportion of native flora, but still a different uh, ruderal plants which were alien, like for instance, like Canadian horseweed, which is very typical not only for Ukraine, were still present because given that it's only third year after fire, so they are still be able to colonize these post-fire sites. And median number of new tree individuals on a transect were just one. There were some abnormal transects with, for instance, 47 new trees appearing on a transect, but it's just outlier, and the effective maximum number was 12 new trees, but mostly it was no trees or just one. And number of plant species was median 7. It's all including new trees and herbaceous plants. And for example, we used as a proxy burn severity. So we used satellite imagery to see what was the normalized burn ratio here on a horizontal axis, ranging from low severity damage 0.2 to quite severe fire 0.6. So it's quite pine landscape is devastated by fire. And these blue points mean a bit more fertile soils, and red points mean a bit less fertile soils. So, for instance, cannot really see a lot of difference, a lot of trends along the axis of change in burn severity, and exactly so what we so then with models which we made, so as a model covariates, we used this delta normalized burn ratio as a proxy of severity. And also distance to the closest big fire break or road from where we could get maybe seeds from non-forest vegetation. And we used relative stocking and site index as stand variables, also soil fertility. We had less fertile soils and a bit more fertile soils, and stand age. So for instance, when we try to predict proportion of native flora, here we found significant impact of burn severity. So on more severely burned sites, we detected significantly less native flora. So indeed, there were more alien vascular plants on more severely burned sites. But we didn't find any real impact of burn severity on tree regeneration, especially when we averaged results and made them comparable. We found impact of stand age, so all the stands had more tree regeneration, which is quite also obvious expectation. And for instance, for number of plant species, we found also no impact of burn severity, but the species richness proxy was dependent on site index with a positive correlation. And we didn't find any impact on species diversity. So it was no statistically different from what we could see in low severely burned sites compared to less burned sites. So for the implications, so species diversity did not change, and it was poor, right, like before fires in less severely burned sites, but also in more severely burned sites. We don't really know how non-native flora can persist further in landscape. Usually it's based on what we see in literature for that region and for wider pine forest landscapes in Ukraine. It quickly gets replaced by forest meadow specialists, and we cannot say that just as Canadian horseweed will persist in the forest, but for instance, it can be different with the problem that these landscapes are now very prone to reburns. So we don't know how this reburns will affect it in that regard, that it may be again recolonized by these alien ruderals and also will halt tree regeneration. But also what we can see in the fresh results from what Andrii and his team sees right now in his Zoom forest, that tree regeneration there, irrelevantly of burn severity, also what this model show, were not really successful. And it seems like we cannot really believe in that even low severity burn sites can naturally recover to some sort of woodland without human intervention. So thank you so much. So data collection was funded by National Forest Research Foundation in Ukraine, and pictures were supplied mostly with drone in Dr. Roman Zadorozhnyuk, and a team was led by Andrii Bilous.
Thanks so much, Maksym. It was excellent talk, very interesting talk. I mean, who have questions? Please, now it's time for questions. Heino, Polly? No, it's not. Okay, sorry. Ruslan, you have a question. Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you, Andrii and Maksym, and presentation, of course, about that topic. But I just wanted to clarify when Andrii was presenting specifically, he used the term. I would just even put like notes, disturbed forest. But also Andrii showed about this new way of warfare, like using optical cables, of course, which are disturbing a forest. Like, so I was kind of wondering if this term, what he used, was also including also this new like contamination, or more like a conventional destruction with the shells and missiles, and then just a following, if yes or even if no, if there any already kind of methodology to try to follow and monitor these types of destructions, because of course they will be staying for a long time.
Ruslan, thank you for I think the most relevant question. We're discussing about this issue, and we think about one way to analyze data which distance use Russian and Ukrainian operators. We can analyze frontline and 20-25 for now, 20-25 kilometers for both sides. It's totally 40-50 kilometers zone around frontline where forest can be contaminated by optical fiber. First of all, frontline. Secondly, distance from operator position to operating position from another side, and landscapes. For future, we can use them, digital evolution model, and we can analyze where typical drones don't work. If operators can use common drones, they use optical drones. It could be fair for analysis, but for now, we don't have more ideas about it. And second question, how we can remediate this forest with optical drones. With birds and animals have many issues with optical fiber. It's a really relevant question, and we are discussing about it. But for some potential area, I hope we will assess it within Andrii Andrushenko PhD thesis and work our team for future. Thank you, Ruslan.
Thank you very much. More questions? I think there are many people from Ukraine. If it's more comfortable to ask in Ukrainian, please do it. We could translate if there is a need. There is no problem with English, okay? I have a question. What kind of forest management is conducted right now in these areas? Any forest management, anything there in these areas which are affected by the war?
Yeah. For my point of view, foresters are working here 24 hours for 7 days. The biggest challenge here is wildfires, and there is a huge pine forest area, huge military impact. Every day shelling from Russian side, and very hot and dry weather. And of course, foresters try to manage forest, try to, first of all, keep forest available for firefighters. Yeah, you have seen picture from, for example, Izium forest, a lot of dead wood. For example, yesterday we finished our field work afternoon because Kharkiv Oblast has a strong wind and a lot of snakes, dead trees fallen on ground. It's really dangerous, and all forest roads can be blocked. And foresters should keep this forest available for firefighters again, and fires the biggest problem here.
Thank you, Andrii. Any questions? Yeah, please.
Thank you. I do not have questions because I have good contacts with all this excellent team. I simply would like to say that the situation is very, very, I even do not know how it should be qualified, but what we have about 40% of Ukraine belongs to Xerox belt, and predictions for future climates are very pessimistic. Only probably it should be hoped that these predictions are wrong, because if we have, for example, for real steppe somewhere in Kherson, in steppe in Crimea, we have evaporation roughly 2,000 millimeter and precipitation 1 or 200. It means that situation is very, very complicated, so let's say in such a way. And what is really their pity, that Ukraine previously spent, no, it has been Soviet Union, let's say, but anyway, it has been in Ukraine. And it has been generated about different data, but 400,000 of shelter belts. Today, these shelter belts, and what Andrii, Professor Bilous said, it is still not understandable how it's possible to fight with all the. Yeah, we know very good history from academician Vysotsky about this sandy area, which today Andrii showed us, and no forest. I visited these territories, worked a short time, 35 years ago, and instead of this desert, it was a real forest, so 45 years, but new features of destructions were at this time. That's what I would like to say. Many thanks, our colleagues. Time is very difficult, and what they are doing now, that's more than important, not only for Ukrainian forestry, forest management, but globally, to understand if humanity could be, let's say, more clever than now, what we have to do instead of conflicts, wars, etc. That's many thanks. І слава Україні, хлопці!
Героям слава.
Heroim Slava. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I have one question because we will have meetings with key stakeholders, as I explained, our task force, IUFRO task force. And for example, that forest probably was FSC certified. Do you see any role of FSC now that could help in forest restoration or in the future or now? What FSC could do right now to support restoration or something?
Maksym, maybe you would like to say. I can share my personal opinion that right now forest management culture in Ukraine is forming, and all NGO and all institution, scientific education institution can impact on forest management improving. And of course, FSC play a key role in Ukraine for forest management development right now. Of course, it could be different challenges for forestry in Ukraine, because mostly all forest enterprises has issue with contamination of forest. It's some dangers for danger for foresters from Zakarpattia Oblast to Kharkiv and Kherson Oblast. A lot of drones, a lot of missiles, a lot of frontline zone near to border, and it lead a lot of issue for foresters. And international rules by FSC can work in Ukraine. At the same time, can meet some question issue. I wouldn't like to discuss about detail. Maybe some experts here can discuss about it more. But I think that future for Ukrainian forest management depends on activities from NGO, personal experts, and different projects from EU and maybe NATO and other institution or organization. And I would like to say thank you for Professor Anatoly Svidenko and Dmitry Shepachenko for their contribution to Ukrainian science and this cooperation between Ukrainian scientists, which bring a lot of new knowledges. For example, we have the big challenge number one, like war impact. In the same time, climate change in second question. And for eastern and southern forests, there's two big challenges: war impact and climate change. And if we would like to know how we can restore this forest, we should analyze and forecast two processes: war impact and climate change impact too.
I beg your pardon for that, but simply to say, Andrei Mikhailovich, I do not know, maybe if you, but anyway, that's what could be, we could see now in Russian south, because in Delta Volga, Kalmykia, etc., we have something about, still not too much, but 500,000 of new moving sands. That is, desertification is going, and the climate is a little bit more severe than it is now in Ukraine. But that is the second question, which it should be, at least it's necessary to provide big science to understand how to operate with this situation. Excuse me.
We have three main scenarios. It's all of them is bad scenarios. First of all, war will continue. It's mean forests around the front line and near border with Russian Federation will be burned fully and destroyed. And from my point of view, forestry right now should harvest mature forest stands and timber harvest timber from, for example, 20-50 kilometers zone from Russian border or front line, because we can lost some income for and the opportunity for forestry, because situation in Korykovo forestry showed that for 3-5 days foresters lost 5,000 hectares of forests. Yeah, it's one first scenario. Second, will be some peaceful period and the conflict will be frozen. We will have huge gray zone. It could be 40 or 50 kilometers gray zone without forest management. And we should know how we can manage the forest, how we can protect forests, like, first of all, wildfires. And third scenario, tomorrow we'll have peace, and we should restore 300,000 hectares of pine forest, for example. We should find seeds, facilities for nursery and planting forest, and cleaning disturbed area. It's a huge challenge. I'm sure that Ukraine doesn't ready for this, and foresters don't ready for it. All options are really difficult, but we should first of all understand what is going on in Ukrainian forest on East and South Ukraine, and we try to do that.
Thank you so much. I'm just thinking that Ukraine doesn't have to be alone in this sort of restoration or in this process, because there is knowledge globally, nationally, regionally, and my question is, what global actors or maybe regional actors are important in order to deliver knowledge which is needed, or expertise which could help you to do research, or also to understand what restoration approach is the most is the best, considering the expertise which already exists globally. Because there are like a Greenpeace, there is a FSC, there is WWF, FAO, and many other organizations. They have a lot of knowledge. Maybe we have to bring that issues to that level and to some kind of understand how they could help.
Yeah, good question. And I remember Forest Forum in IASA in 2023, where IUFRO helped to organize this forum, and we discussed about war and the impact on education, science, and forestry. Of course, I think, first of all, many things depends on situation with state forest agency. State should have strategy and should organize platform for discussing what we should do, where we should do, and who should have the responsibility for it. And I see here many experts, and I would like to say Heino Polle, for example, from Germany. He and his colleagues from SFIE project, Sustainable Forest Management, Forestry Implementation, helped to organize National Forest Inventory, for example. It's big deal for us. We don't have enough information about forest fund, for example. I think all Ukrainian partners do their best for future forest management, but first of all, Ukrainian foresters should have a platform for discussing, and key role Ukrainians university and NGO, and like Center Eastern European Center Monitoring Wildfires for Sergei Ziptsev. They do a lot of for learning, for teaching, for scientific work, and sharing best practice experience between foresters. We of course provide more opportunity and more power from Europe, of course. But first of all, Yeah, we should use our facilities here. I know, for example, Horizon Project has a call for Ukrainian science, remediation, and forest science too. I know many Ukrainian team prepares different proposal. If EU or international organization will spend some money for different scientific or innovation call, I am sure scientists can bring more knowledge for future, and it will be 100%.
Okay. Thank you, Andrii. More questions. Sometimes I think that the government could maybe is not able to listen national actors, but might be more willing to listen international actors. Sometimes you could reach it from that global level, from the international level. It might be also more useful. Yeah.
Scientific discussion is very important, because if we discuss a lot of, we can run priority for us, what we should do first of all.
Yeah, and also it will help our task force to understand what expertise is needed and what stakeholders we could invite to have this dialogue, not only for Ukraine, because it's also relevant for many other countries. And unfortunately, our global society is becoming more unstable than stable. Therefore, yeah, your expertise and your knowledge is extremely important. Yeah. Okay, do we have more questions?
Yeah, Marina, just short comment. Yes, hello everybody, and thanks Andrii for mentioning Regional Eastern Europe Fire Monitoring Center. And thanks for Andrii and Maksym for such good presentation. I think what is most important and what we are doing now is the research going first. And then having data and understanding of situation, we can think about strategy and then implementation. Now seems lots of processes going on with lack of data. And so that Andrii mentioned this call of European Union, but it will start only in 28. It will start. So we may have data by 30, 31. And so what we need more research on frontline in eastern forest and southern forest damaged by war. And this is a task, and Maksym did a great, Maksym and Andrii did a great publication on that. But of course, we need the large-scale mapping of damage there. And then we will understand the risks, fire risks, etc., etc. So research first, I think. Thanks, Marina, and thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much, Sergei. Research is extremely important, but communication and dissemination is extremely also important. Therefore, you're very welcome to IUFRO, because it's a wonderful umbrella to dissemination of research outcomes, and that could be heard by the policymakers, because there are policymakers, they are also members of this IUFRO organization. Therefore, use please IUFRO as an umbrella to disseminate your excellent research. Yeah. Thank you again, Maksym and Andrii. Thanks a lot, because it was absolutely fantastic talks, very needed, very crucial, and thank you to be so brave during this hard time in Ukraine. Yeah. Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава.
Героям слава.
Friends, thank you very much for your time and for discussing.
Okay. Thank you. Goodbye.